Hey, what is going on, guys? So here we have the absolutely gigantic Mazinger Z 160 scale Infinity version kit here, and it is gigantic. It's really pushing the limits of my review space here. It's kind of just barely fitting onto my rotating base there, so we'll actually be able to give you guys a look around the kit here like this. And man, this was a really fun kit to build, but I really do enjoy building the mega size kits. And once again, although this is not a mega size kit by name, in pretty much every other way it's a mega size kit. It uses the same polycaps, the construction is all pretty much the same, although I am happy to report that this does have much fewer seam lines on it than the typical mega size Gundam kits have. The mega size like Gundam, the mega size Zaku both have tons of seam lines on them, and with them being gigantic pieces, it's kind of a pain in the ass. But with this kit, it doesn't really have that many seam lines on it, which is fantastic, and obviously I think that's just due to the armor panel design of this, with it being like such a patchwork of different armor panels. They were able to design the parts in a way that fit together that just hide the seam lines on there very well, so that's good. And just the kit is just gigantic. Obviously that's going to be the main point of this kit, but aside from its size, it's incredibly nicely detailed as well. There's a ton of detail on it everywhere, especially if you look even at some of the finer detail, especially around up on the face and the head. We'll see here in a moment. We have the LED gimmick in there as well, which I'll try to get going for you guys if I can get it open. The hatch on the back to access the LED is kind of hard to get open, so if I can get that open, we'll get that lit up for you guys. But once again, if you missed the live build of this, I did build the kit up live here on my channel, so that video is stored here on my channel if you want to check that out. I did test the LED during the live stream as well, and it was very cool. But if you guys are familiar with mega size kits at all, then you should know, aside from the seamline issue that I mentioned, the other issue that most mega size kits have is that they just don't really have very good articulation. They're just so big and clunky that they don't really do a whole lot. They just look big and cool, and they're really nicely detailed, but you can't really expect them to actually really do a lot. So a lot of people say they're like gigantic versions of HG kits, and that's kind of sort of the case, but a lot of times HG kits are actually better articulated than the mega size versions. The mega size kits are very simple, like the big thing of them is that they're very large. Now, one thing also people point out is that this is a different scale for mega size kits. Mega size kits are typically 1/48 scale, this is 1/60 scale. While the scale is different, the general size is about the same. So we'll take a look at a couple of size comparisons here in a bit as well, compared to the mega size ARC 78s and Unicorn Gundams. But first off, let's just take a closer look and check out the articulation that it does have. For convenience sake, before we get into the articulation, I'm going to remove the backpack. So you can remove that by just taking off this part here on the front, and sort of like a belt that fits around his midsection there. And then just take off the backpack here. And then you have this part here to plug that up from where the backpack was removed. If you don't want to have that installed on there, you can just plug that up like that. Now the hatch to remove to get to the LED is here on the back that you need to remove there. But yeah, like I said, I can't get it at the moment. I'll try to get that here in a bit. As for the head can go up to there and down to there, so you have a double joint. You have a joint at the base of the neck and then a joint at the base of the head there, so that can kind of chicken neck there. You can get that a little bit to the side like that as well, and turn, of course. And just the detail around here, like I said, on the head looks great. And inside those clear parts there for the eyes and everything, it looks super cool in there. And then also, of course, we have this little guy up on his head. You can remove that. The wings fold down on this, and this also is really nice. It doesn't have, unfortunately, like the connector for this to plug into the top of the head is square shaped. It would have been nice if they would have just made that circle shape so you could plug this onto an action base, but unfortunately with it just the way that it is, to plug it onto an action base or something, you'd have to just, I guess, drill another hole or something in there, just try to make it fit like that. And also inside that clear part, you have like a really nice detail there with like the pilot seat chairs and stuff, but I gotta say, it definitely does not look 1/60 scale. The scale of the detail inside of there, like especially the chair, looks more like 1/144 or possibly 1/100 scale, but it definitely doesn't look 1/60 scale in there. So the scale of that is a bit off, I think, but that just folds up and then fits up onto the head there. Here at the shoulder, we have a little bit of movement forward and back like that. You can move this shoulder armor by itself, and you can ultimately bring the arm up to only about there, it seems like, unfortunately, so not even up to 90 degrees there for that. But the elbow bend is pretty nice. So you have this two separate panels here. When you bend this, there's a bend of like the main elbow here, and then there's another bend up behind this part, so that part will kind of fold into the elbow joint there. Hopefully you guys can see that. So it's a pretty nice elbow joint for this, and of course it also has to have a nice elbow joint for the rocket punch and rocket elbow features, which we'll see in a moment. But so the elbow actually folds up quite nicely, and here's one of the few seam lines that you have on this kit, is on this silver part there on the upper arm. As for the wrist, it's attached via a ball joint at the base, and then you do have a hinge in the wrist there as well, so it's actually quite nice. On the hand here is one of the other points where you will have a seam line. Here on the thumb, you'll notice a seam line on the side of the thumb there. Some really nice detail here on the chest as well. That piece up underneath this clear red piece looks really cool. That'll look even better once it's actually painted with some like metallic kind of color or something like that, where you can really see it shining underneath the clear red. We have some articulation here in the torso, where that will bend back like that. Not really forward though, unfortunately. And then we do have some rotation here at the midsection as well. You can get that rotated a little bit. For these kind of skirt bits, these little guys at the front will move up and down a little bit, and these ones here on the side will also move a little bit, but kind of not really much. On the side of the hip joint is where you will have another seam line, just a little one here down the side of just that part there. You can bring the legs out pretty nice and wide there, and then you move that little front skirt bit a little bit. You can get the leg up to about 90 degrees to the body like that. Very cool. And then for the knee bend, it'll just bend like that. You will have a seam line here on the front of that joint in there. So like most of the seam lines on this kit are just on like the joint parts, like here and then here on the upper leg. It's just like that basically. And then down here at the ankles, you have some forward and back movement, just a little bit, and a little bit of side to side as well. But from my experience, the ankles tend to be the weak point of these mega size kits because there's so much weight on them. The ankles can get kind of weak, and they can be kind of, they tend to fall over kind of easily because the ankle gets kind of weak. But on this one, the ankle does feel stronger than usual. Up underneath the feet, you got some nice detail there. It looks very cool. So if we once more just plug on the backpack here for a moment. The wings are also articulated in that they'll fold like that and also rotate down. You can rotate them down like that. So once again, from the back side, you can see they'll rotate down, and then you can fold the wing up as well. And the other side, rotate that down and then fold that up. You kind of have to watch out, they kind of cross over each other like that there for the folded wings at the back. For some other accessories, we do also have this set of just open sort of like karate chop action hands. These also have a seam line on them. On this side, it's not really so bad because it's kind of through the side of the fingers where it kind of looks sort of natural. But on this side, you will have a seam line down through the middle of the thumb there, which you probably will want to get rid of that. But these hands, again, the detail on them though does look very nice. We also have the iron cutter parts. These are 2 for each arm, and these do also each have a little bit of a seam line on them right there and there, where the 2 halves of this main part. The blade is one solid piece, but then this part down here at the kind of base underneath the blade is 2 pieces that sandwich together. So for these, you'll need to remove this panel here on the side of the arm, and it seems like I picked the wrong day to cut my fingernails this morning, but that will come off of there. And although the manual doesn't really show this clearly, once you take off this panel, you need to put it back on, right onto there, so basically changing the position of that, and then you can plug this onto the side of there. So there is what that's going to look like with those installed on there. Pretty cool accessory for this. And then another accessory here that we have is certainly more function over fashion, because it's these pretty ugly looking parts which will basically serve to plug onto the bottom of the feet to help balance the kit. If you're having trouble getting the kit to stand, you can just plug these onto the bottom of the feet here, and that will help them stand. But honestly, I've found that it stands just fine without those. You really don't need those, thank God, because they're very ugly. From the front, they're not that noticeable, but from the back, you just have these like big bubble things sticking out the back of his ankles. Looks just kind of weird. And lastly, we just have the parts to make the rocket punch and drill missile attachments here for the arms. So we'll demonstrate on this arm. Basically, all I need to do is just remove the arm there, which actually is kind of loose. It actually comes off a little bit too easy in my opinion, that arm segment there at the elbow. But for the rocket punch, you'll just attach this part onto there, and so it looks like he's kind of punching, and then this, you don't really have anything to do with this. So once again, there's no stand for this, no way to plug this onto an action stand, but you just have this and you can have it out as the rocket punch. But if you wanted to do the drill missiles, you use a little bit different one here. Basically the same kind of attachment, but also has the peg at the top there for plugging the elbow back onto here. like that for the drill missile part. So there you go, that's all the accessories. Alright, so here is a comparison between the Mega Size Unicorn Gundam, the Mega Size RX-72 Gundam, and a high grade RX-72 Gundam down there at the bottom, so you can get an idea of how big this is. And again, the Gundams there are in the same scale, they're both 1/48 scale, and the Mazinger here in 1/60 scale is coming in size right about between them, so it's definitely a very large kit. And again, compared to the high grade, which is like not even coming up to the knee of the Mazinger or even the RX-72 Gundam, these kits are absolutely gigantic. If you've never built a Mega Size kit, I know they're really expensive, and I know people's big aversion to buying them is probably just because like they think, oh, I could buy a perfect grade for around the same price, and the perfect grade has a lot more complexity to it, you know, has a lot more parts and everything. These are obviously larger than perfect grades even, and do have a lot of nice service detail. They just don't really do a whole lot. But finally, as for the LED gimmick here, alright, so one other difference from other Mega Size kits, that the other Mega Size kits all come with a part separator, which is really quite handy because on these Mega Size kits, the pieces are so huge. If you need to take something apart, because you have like such a large peg fitting together, there's so much more tension there that the pieces are harder to get apart when you have really huge pieces like this, so that's why they come with a part separator. This one unfortunately doesn't come with one, but I found that this wave part separator that I have that comes in handy very often was helpful in finally getting this piece off the back in there. So when you pull that out, it pulls out the LED unit in here, which as you can see is still on. It's just so faint now that it wasn't really lighting up the head at all, just because it's been on since when I built the kit. It was like a week ago or something, over a week ago. So I guess that just goes to show you the battery life of these. It's not too bad, but it's not really going to be able to show much. I'm going to pop that LED unit out of here and change the battery, and then we'll see how it looks. There we go. That's much brighter, much better. Let's get this back in place. And you'll notice that it's not showing up that brightly. That's because I got a bunch of bright lights on, so let me kick off this light so you guys can at least see that a little bit better. So if your room is well lit, unfortunately it's still not going to be all that noticeable, but if it's in like a dark room, a dim room, something like that, then you're going to be able to see that. And the detail once the eyes are lit up there, and these are lit up a little bit too, these bits here on the side, but again, it's not going to be that much, but the detail in there does look really nice when it is lit up. Also, out the top of the head, you've got lights here as well. When you remove the flyer out the top of the head, it actually lights up here also, which is really cool. And you got a bunch of nice detail in there, so that's actually really cool how that lights up the top as well. Well, the LED gimmick is not that bright, unfortunately. If it was brighter, I think it would be much better. It does look great, I mean, what you can see of it. But that's just about gonna do it for the review, guys. Not too much else to talk about with this kit, except that it's gigantic. It's got a ton of great detail on there, pretty minimal on the seam lines. It's got some alright accessories and weapons, I guess, like as much as you would expect for it. So I think it comes with anything you would really want for it, I think. And while it is pretty expensive, I think it's definitely something that's going to get some attention if you got this up on your shelf. I mean, just the wingspan alone is massive. Just to let you guys know some exact measurements here, he's coming in about 43 centimeters tall. And my ruler actually is not quite long enough, but it looks like it's about 50 centimeters wide or so with the wings spread out like that. So I don't know, the amount of shelf space that this takes up might actually be a negative for you if you've got limited space. That might be something that makes you not want to buy this kit and maybe want to go for the 1/44 scale version, as it takes up much less space. But I gotta say, if you got the space and if you're willing to spend a little bit extra money, I think this version of the kit is pretty awesome. It's so epic having these gigantic kits. I really like them. They take so long to work on because there's just so much sanding and everything, and then like the painting process takes forever, and then especially with this kit as well, the panel lining is going to take forever as well, just because there's panel lines all over the place on this thing. So it's going to take a little while to work on, but I think if you just go through the effort and, you know, put some love into it, it's going to look even better. But even straight out the box, it looks very good, I think. So let me know what you guys think about the kit down below. I know a lot of you are excited about this kit. I think just obviously the high price tag is the thing that's going to be holding a lot of people back on it, but hopefully you guys will utilize my 10% discount code there, ZakuAurelius10, over at USA Gundam Store. That can make it just a little bit cheaper there for you guys. If you want to check out the kit for yourself, I would recommend you check it out there. And as always, guys, if you have any other further questions or comments, do feel free to leave those down below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna get out the sanding pads and get to work on this guy because we're gonna paint him up. So I'll see you all with that soon. Goodbye, guys.